Politics. Here in our roundtable, I am joined, as always, by George Will, Republican consultant Frank Luntz, the author of What Americans Really Want. Really? Is that the right way to pronounce that, or the right inflection there? Democratic strategist Donna Brazile, Sam Donaldson, and Cokie Roberts. And George, so much happened in the political world this week, but that unemployment number on Friday, 10.2%, probably the most significant development.
3 digits is a lot more than 2 when unemployment's concerned. Adding those who are either discouraged and left the job market or are underemployed, you're at about 17.5%. Given the fact that you have to create 100,000 new jobs a month in this economy just to stay even with population growth, you can see the kind of hole we're in. And as this is happening, small business and others who do the hiring and job creation look around and they see card check coming that would make it easier to unionize. They see a 12% increase in domestic spending plan for 2010, and they see the raft of regulations and costs and taxes in the health care bill, and they get discouraged.
Yeah, but they saw all that in Reagan's day. His popularity went down to 37% at one point. But guess what? We came out of that recession thanks to Paul Volcker, wringing out inflation the old-fashioned way by jacking up interest rates of the Fed, and it was morning in America again. So I say to people, anyone who thinks that Barack Obama isn't kind of odds-on for re-election must not think we're going to come out of this recession, because assuming we do, and I think we're going to, by 2012, it will be morning in America.
How long does it take, though?
I think that's right, though.
Well, a lot of people are going to be hurt in the meantime.
You look at since you did that nice Reagan analogy, 1982 was a terrible year for Republicans. They lost 26 seats in the House and 4 in the Senate, and everybody's saying, see, the Reagan landslide really wasn't what it would look like and all of that. 1984, a very different story, and what we really had in 1980, that Reagan election, was a realignment that lasted for a generation. And I basically think that despite what happened on Tuesday and what I think is likely to happen in 2010, I think we probably did see a realignment in 2008.
And what we saw also on Tuesday night, Frank, is really a primal scream from the voters on the economy. 85–90% of the voters worried about the economy, almost half that very worried.
And now you understand why there's so much anger. 72% of Americans define themselves as, quote, mad as hell and not going to take it anymore. Every age group except for 18 to 29-year-olds. Ethnicity, it doesn't matter. There is this level of frustration and anxiety. But I compare this not to Reagan in 82. I compare this to 1994. And it was on this show, and I'm sitting next to him when this whole thing happened. And I said, look at the health care bill that we were frustrated with. Look at all the wasteful Washington spending in the crime bill back at that time. The right direction, wrong track numbers were awful. And the president had lost significant support after being elected to unite the country. The same numbers exist today that existed in 1994.
Now, what Democrats are banking on, though, is that's a year away, Donna.
Well, first of all, I don't think it's 94, because in 94 we also had some other potential disastrous things that happened that caused Democrats to lose so many seats. First of all, we had a great deal of retirements in the Congress. We had the bank scandal, the post office scandal. I was a House employee, so I can go down the scandals. We also had Democrats running for other seats, and so that created this environment for Republicans. But we also had a Republican Party that had ideas. We had a Republican Party that was a lot more vibrant and had plans to help solve some problems. We don't have that Republican Party today. So I think that what President Obama must do once this health care business is done is to get back to work and creating jobs for the American people. Productivity is up 6%. We know that that's one sign that the economy might be coming back. More people are being hired for part-time work. Well, Frank, it will come, and I'm one of those who hope it comes sooner than later.
But you know, the other thing that's true, Donna's point about the Republican Party. We're seeing Republican ID numbers at the lowest in
23%.
And in one poll, 17% of people saying that they're Republicans, while conservative numbers are up. And so what I think what you're seeing, you showed with the party chairman, those independent numbers. What you're seeing is independents being considerably more conservative than they were 2 years ago, because a lot of the people who used to call themselves Republicans are now calling themselves independents.
But Cokie, independents, I think in Virginia and New Jersey prove that they're also moderates. That's why they're independent. They're not on one side or the other side. And the Republican candidates who ran in those 2 states ran as moderates. Now, never mind what they truly may be, but Bob McDonnell may be his thesis that was uncovered by the Washington Post, but he didn't run that way. He didn't call anyone a Nazi, and he ran a positive campaign. rather than a negative campaign. And he's a nice guy. That's the way he projected. So moderates said, wait a second, Frank's right, we're mad as hell. This guy sounds all right to us. We don't even know this other, who is this person, great deeds, and they voted for him.
Nothing makes a middle-class nation angrier faster than inflation.
Right.
Now, this week...
We have no inflation.
This week, Sam, this week when the price of gold at one point on Friday hit $1,100 an ounce, the government of India bought 200 tons of gold. Why'd they do that? It's only $7 billion, but still, it's a sign that the holders of dollar-denominated assets are diversifying out of dollars into other better stores of value. That is their judgment that inflation's
Well, then
coming.
we better throw Ben Bernanke and the Fed out, because they say there is not only no inflation now, but they're predicating their policy for the next few months on the fact there will not be any inflation.
They might be wrong.
They could be wrong. That's why I say if they're wrong, let's get rid of them now before they do further damage.
But the public is more upset and more angry about wasteful Washington spending than any other issue. And that's what brings out the anger in them. And if I may give you a preview of 2010, the Democrats in Congress passed $1 trillion health care bill last year. Remember that? $1 trillion? So tell me, are you paying less today than you did a year ago? Is your health care any better today than it was a year ago? Is it really worth $1 trillion in higher taxes, higher spending, and a higher debt for your children? Yep, the Democrats made you spend $1 trillion on health care. Remember that when you go to the polls on Tuesday.
What if your
What's the
premiums
answer,
went
Donna,
down?
Brazile?
What if your premiums actually
Donna?
went
Well,
down?
They won't go down next year.
But if we've created jobs and we put the country on a better economic foundation for the future, and the Republicans just said no, crying and whining and screaming along the way, I think Democrats will get the benefit of that. But look, historically speaking, Democrats will face some losses next year. I think we all know that. Franklin Roosevelt in '34 did not. George Bush in 2002 did not. But that aside, I think Democrats should not take the wrong lessons from Tuesday. The lesson, I think, is that, yes, swing voters, independents behaved as Republicans. They were soft Democrats in '06 and '08. They gave the Republicans some love this time. But that love, as we all know, is in short supply, because what they want change, and they want someone who can deliver.
And you see, but Frank's point gets to a real dilemma for the administration, because they know that they've got to get more jobs out there, and they've got, and the president keeps saying, give me ideas for job creation, give me ideas, give me ideas. But
After healthcare.
But after healthcare. But government spending is very unpopular. So how do you do it? How do you find some sort of stimulus for jobs without adding to the deficit? And that is,
You can't. I mean, you're sometimes
Paul.
analyst
Find a way to make people less mad about the deficit, and that's not going to be easy.
Paul Krugman is often on this program and a New York Times columnist, and I think he's right. We're going to have more stimulus, more spending. You say, well, it's terrible. Frank, you say, hand it to the Republicans.
You'll hand it to the
all right.
majority.
So we don't come out of the recession. Oh, good. Tremendous. In other words, which is worse? More spending, more debt, which we've got to take care of, but we come out of the recession because of it, or let's just stay with
George,
a lot of people out of work.
The Democrats seem to have concluded that even though there's a lot of qualms in their caucus on this health care bill, that failing to act, failing to address this problem that people are concerned about is much, much worse. And they have to take the risk, absolutely.
Yes, well, I think Donna's right that health care was about fourth on the list of what caused the problem in 1994, not the least of which was 40 years, I guess it was, of Democratic control of the House of Representatives. Yes, their argument seems to be we have to pass the bill because we started to pass the bill. And that's not a very powerful argument.
That's not their argument. Their argument is, if you don't buy it, fine, that we need to have more Americans covered so that more Americans can have better health care.
But everyone agrees with that. Republicans and Democrats agree with that. It's the solution that's the problem. And I'm going to throw another issue that no one's talked about. Right now, a lot of governors, Democrats and Republicans, are having to release prisoners because they can't afford to house them. They can't build new prisons. What's that going to do in 2010 when 1 or 2 or 10 of those people commit crimes?
Ask Michael Dukakis. All he had was a prison release on the weekend
We're in a
program.
serious situation where not just presidents and Congress, but governors are faced with tough decisions. And I think, George, that they're making the wrong ones, which is why 2009 may not be an anti-democratic year, but it most certainly was an anti-incumbent year, and that will be the same.
But you see, which is why I think in the long